Megavanan, and welcome my friends to Elven Awakenings, chatting with the Elven Scholar. And now, to your guide to all things Elvish, Dr. Erendil Spindelellis, the Elven Scholar.
Once upon a time in a forest rich in pine and oak lived a young elf. He lived amongst his neighbors who were clothed in fur and feather, and found joy and peace with each sunrise, and silence in the evening light of the stars. He spent his days communing with his woodland brothers and sisters, and the nights in contemplation and meditation. Light shone upon him unstained from the mortal world, and he was happy. But as time passed, he became more aware of the land outside, filled with fear and despair, and he knew his time of living in the gentle woods was coming to an end, and his journey as a teacher was upon him. When the morning sun found him again, he walked out of the forest with nothing but the clothes on his back, and strode into the land of man, to teach and to be taught. For it is the way of all teachers, that the student so often will be the better master. This is my story, and it is true. My name is Erendil, and I am the Elven Scholar. Megovan and my Elven, Fae, and other kin family. Today, for another episode of Elven Awakenings, chatting with the Elven Scholar on Heroes and Mortals Radio. And we're going to have a really interesting discussion today, and that is on the topic of who is God. I know it's a very, very deep subject, and it might rattle a few cages, but I hope that we can talk about this and debate it in a mature manner. But I'll try to make this as simple as I can. It was requested by someone on Facebook about a year or so ago, and she asked for my view on God and what would be the Elven perspective of God. And so we're going to talk about that today. And in the Elvish language, God is pronounced as Eru. All right, so we'll get into why that is and what that exactly means. It's in a lot of ways, it's very different than most religions would look at God. And so, well, let's get started. Okay, I'd like everyone, as well as myself, to keep in mind that there are lots of different religions in this world. And there are about 7 billion humans on this planet, and therefore there are about 7 billion different views or perspective on what God is. And this one is simply mine. It's just one of them, 1/7 billionth of the world's view on God. So please keep in mind, this is just my view on it. I'm not trying to push it on anybody. But maybe, as I say so often, maybe we can learn from each other. It's interesting that the person who asked me to give this talk has defined herself as an atheist, but she's curious. She's open-minded. She wants to learn. You know, she doesn't want to just go, okay, that's it, and there is no God. I believe that most people who have an issue with the belief in a God it's in how they were raised and what they had witnessed in the world, the wars, slavery, death, destructions at the hands of humans, all in the name of God. It's either blamed on God or it's blamed on the devil, and it's no wonder. You know, people say that the God's on their side and that justifies their actions. Well, it's no wonder today in mass exodus that people are leaving religion, and a lot of them either leave religion completely and have nothing to believe in, or they're moving more towards a spiritual side. And for myself, I see that as a really good movement, that people are beginning to question for themselves. They're beginning to ask, well, why? And so I treasure when people, especially atheists or agnostics, they go, okay, well, wait a minute. Okay, I don't believe in their God. Okay, but that doesn't mean there isn't a God, that there isn't something greater than myself. All right? So, obviously, I don't believe what most people do either. And so, here we are from the Elven perspective. So, what is God? Well, now, from the Elven perspective, as I said, the word God is Eru. And that's a term that Tolkien revealed for us, J.R.R. Tolkien. And the meaning is often taken as the one. Okay, the one God. Okay, now, many do not know this, but if one were to dig deeply into Tolkien's writings, there is an obscure and often missed passage where he's defined Uru as he who is alone. That is so incredibly important. That's not a loneliness thing. It has such deep and significant meaning, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit greater detail. But Eru, he who is alone. Okay, and again, like I said, it's not a lonely or sad thing. Well, for me, from my history, I've traveled around the world. I've told you guys this before, and studied pretty much every major human religion and visited their temples and their churches, however their buildings of worship may be defined. And I've done this all around the world. I have studied Christianity, Hebrew, the Jewish religion, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, pagan, you pretty much name it. I have studied the human religions, and along with a lot of other very little ones as well that most people probably have never heard of. What I have done, and it might be wonderful if more people did this, was to immerse myself in the culture of the countries I went to. It's not enough to go to Paris and see the Eiffel Tower. It's important to me that you learn something of the language and visit the quiet, out-of-the-way locations. Get to know the people themselves, otherwise you miss the richness and the beauty of the culture. For example, quite a number of years ago, I went to Thailand. And before I went, I studied Thai. It is a unique but beautiful language, but I did it so that I could better understand the people. Tolkien knew this, that the culture and the history of a people was wrapped up in their language, and if you studied their language enough, you actually could get a more of an understanding in the people themselves. So for me, myself, it was better to envelop myself into their culture. And it paid off in meeting such beautiful people, seeing things tourists rarely ever get to see. They invited me to festivals and celebrations that tourists normally don't get to, because I was at least trying to respect their culture, and I wanted to learn about them. And that's something they're not used to. You know, the old term, the ugly American, and it goes for most Western nations now. They go to these countries to sign off a bucket list thing or to go buy something new. I remember quite a number of years ago, we had some friends of the family, and we decided to all go on a trip together. And what the other couple did was they wanted to go see the malls. And we were like, we could do that back at home. Let's go see the area interests. You know, go look at the lighthouses and go to the beach and explore the out-of-the-way areas. It's important that we immerse ourselves in the land that we're in, get to know the people and get to know the culture, which helps us better to understand their religious and spiritual beliefs. Therefore, I've seen a lot of different religions and cultures, and I've come to this conclusion. And again, I apologize if some may be offended by this, but we can debate it in a mature way. There is no such thing, in my view, as one true religion. There is no one religion that holds the monopoly on the truth. Okay, but I have found that every religion has some grain, some element of the truth, some part of it, not just the whole picture, just not the whole picture. That is for you to discover through the wonderful mind Eru granted you. You are not a puppet, hence the purpose of free will. It seems to be like it's a big jigsaw puzzle, and if we could just put all the pieces together, it would make sense. And you might think that therefore there are many pieces of the puzzle scattered throughout the world. But the good news is this: life is actually very, very simple. And there is simply one piece. And we'll talk about that here in just a few. For myself, and I've mentioned this before, on both this radio show as well as on my YouTube channel, for myself, I've witnessed so many things in my life, had so many adventures, and with faith, they're not over. I've been in avalanches and storms out at sea. I've been in war zones. I've been shot at. And I can say without a doubt, and every single time, This was with bullets flying past my head, rocks tumbling past, storm waves were washing over my boat out at sea. And yet not one time did I ever leave with even a scratch, never even hurt a single time. And I believe this is because of how I believe, what I believe in, how I approach life, and how I see reality. And it's what I hope for. As I've talked about before, the Elven word Estelle. It may be my favorite word in all the universe, Estelle. By most definitions, it means hope, okay? But it also means something far deeper than that. It means trust. It means trust in what I call God, the forces of the universe, Eru, that in the end, it will be okay. It will turn out all right. You know, Gandhi made a comment, a beautiful, beautiful comment one time. He said, "It may seem for a time that evil wins out, that truth seems to be subdued and closeted and become submissive. But in the end, truth always wins out." And that belief is what's carried me through some very, very big adventures. So, if everyone has some element of the truth, how do we define God? What do we actually do with this in mind? How would you define God? Well, I'll talk about how I define God. Okay, I'll take the word out of the equation, as far as we, and I'll just simply again mention me, how I believe, how I define God. Okay, again, I hope this does not offend anybody, and again, that maybe we can have mature debate, but for me, the best absolute definition for God is that there is only one mind. There is no you, there is no me. Where I begin and you end is just a blur. There is no 7 billion humans on this planet or on all the worlds that exist in this universe. I believe that the closest I've found in this world that comes, the closest to defining the concept of God, would be the and I use the word loosely, the philosophy or the way of thinking of Zen Buddhism. And please note, I said the philosophy or way of thinking, not religion. It is simply a way of thinking or viewing the world. It is actually better defined as a discipline. I'd much rather use that word with Zen, as a discipline, not even a philosophy, certainly not a religion. All right? Within Zen, we are taught that there is only one mind. No you, no me, no we. The greatest impediments for people to truly see God, to understand who we are in relation to God, the one mind, to understanding what God is and what the universe is really all about, what is the meaning of life, the greatest impediment to that is our ego. A beautiful Zen saying goes like this: when we lose myself, we become no thing with no mind. We see the awareness that we truly are, unperturbed by unnecessary thought. This is the embodiment of self-realization. This is the heart of Zen. We are all one. Only our egos and beliefs and fears separate us. I like what I've stated before so many times. So many people, let's just say, for example, I've talked about this before, that we take the moon as the symbol of truth. All right. And if we were to simply look at the moon, we would see the truth. I'm talking symbolically here, of course. But most people do not look directly at the moon, but at its reflection in a pool. Okay, not realizing that it was behind them all the time. So instead of looking at the actual moon, the truth, they look at just its reflection. And remember, a reflection is just an illusion. The problem is any slight wind or breeze, a frog hopping anything that distorts the water, so to speak. And therefore, we're talking about their understanding of the truth becomes distorted. Okay, this can be in the form of fear, hate, listening to others' worldviews, and not from their own depths, from their own understanding. And all we had to do the whole time was to just turn around and look up. You have the gift of seeing the truth for yourself. Unfortunately, what happens in so many religions today, and I'm not saying all of them do that, and again, please remember a past episode I did where I talked about tools. A tool is useful until it's not. Okay, for many people, and I went through this phase a very long time ago for myself, that religion has a place. It can open you up to the possibility of something greater than yourself. For a time, ritual gives you some grounding. It gives you a basis in belief. It gives you community. It spurs you on to study scripture and other writings of depth. But like all things, again, like taking the analogy of life is a school, and there's kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade. We are meant to advance and to continue to grow and move on, and eventually some tools that used to be so useful to us we can let go of and move on to the next one. That it doesn't make the tool which is no longer useful evil or bad. It had its purpose. It got us started. It moved us to the next level. All right. Our own ego stops us from doing that very thing, from moving on. As I've mentioned before, there are two sides to us. Philosophically, the two sides of the same coin, the spirit and the soul. The spirit is our expression of our individuality. That part that wants to advance and grow, and that can be a very good thing. This way we learn and we grow as an individual. We become stronger and more secure in our place in the universe. And then there is our soul. Again, the spirit and the soul are just two sides of the same coin. It's not that they're unique pieces, but two sides of the same coin. So there's the soul, which is that part that yearns to take all that knowledge and experience we gained as a spirit and now share it with everyone else, with the rest of the universe. That balance, once attained, the balance between the spirit and the soul, is called by the Silver Elves, and I love this, is called the soulful spirit. Absolutely love that phrase. So Silver Elves, thank you for passing that on to us. I truly enjoy that. This means a spirit that has the desire to share its knowledge and its healing with all else, not attached to the ego. But unfortunately, because this is such a young world and is filled with very young souls, most are still at that stage of the individual growing, letting the ego spur them on to new knowledge and experiences. But for so many of them, they get trapped and they forget that what they're really here for two reasons: to grow and to help others do the same. And for so many, they never get past that spirit side, never get to start using the soul side of the coin, where they take all that beauty that they've learned and experienced and now share it with others. All right. Okay, so that's what I prefer to look at as God, as an Elven perspective. And what is a better way to explain that? Well, when we look at, again, Zen, a way and a method for calming the mind, it can help us to keep from being distracted by the world around, the illusion created by others' dramas and agendas. Most people go through their lives never slowing down, never stopping, never really looking at a rose, never living in the now. because that's all there is the now. There is nothing else. There's no such thing as time. We've talked about that in past episodes. You can go listen to those again or watch the one I did on YouTube. There is no past to feel trapped in guilt with or be weighed down with, and there's no future to live in constant anxiety for. All there is right now. That's all that exists. Zen teaches us that there is only one mind. There really is nothing else but God. There's nothing else. So for me, instead of looking up at the heavens for God or looking below for something else, I realized that everything is God. Some might call that a pantheistic way of looking at the worldview of God because God is everything. It is the sky above us, the clothes I'm wearing, the wind that blows through the desert here where I live, the smile from a child, or even the child itself. It is all a manifestation or aspect of God. A wonderful book I love, and it's in my personal library, I've talked about this before, is Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land. If you want to read it, I highly recommend the unabridged, the unedited version of it. You can still buy it out there, pretty sure on Amazon. Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land. It's a beautiful book about just big in science fiction. It's about an expedition that goes to Mars, and boom, and they're never heard from again. And it was a series of couples that went there, and they were meant to start colonizing Mars. And then all of a sudden, after they'd gotten settled, all of a sudden, no more messages from them. So it's like 20-something years later, the next expedition goes out to find what happened to them. And they find out that all were dead except for one, a little child that was born there. And he had been raised by the aliens that they discovered actually lived on Mars. They were the natives of the planet. So now we have this child, he's now a young man, who had been raised by aliens, learned life from an alien, Elven, an alien perspective. And so he had a very different way of looking at things, and so they brought him back to Earth, and he got used to the gravity, and they began to realize that he could do things that most humans couldn't do, because he never did learn what couldn't be done. He was taught, well, this is what can be done. He had no inhibitions. And so basically within the book, a whole religion is created and a way of looking at life, and it's really quite marvelous, incredibly deep philosophically. Okay, and I've seen that today in real life. There's actually a religion that was formed around the concept of this book, all right, so to speak. Because it rang true with so many people. And the main precept, or the single phrase that could sum it all up from the book, and even from what people are doing as a religion today, based on that book, 3 words: Thou art God. Thou art God. We are all God. We are all aspects of God. It's like one of the cells in my hand. It's still me, and yet these cells have an expression of life on their own. And yet, it's still me. You are God, as well as I am God. All aspects of the one mind, Eru, God. One mind, one spirit, one church, one family. I'm not saying one true religion. I'm just saying there is only one God. There is only one mind. There's only one family. And the one thing that stops us from seeing that, again, is our ego, which makes this choice based on fear of letting go of me. We feel if we accept that truth, that we don't exist as an individual singularity, then we will plunge into some chasm, some abyss of the unknown, and we'll lose ourselves. The irony is, that is when we find ourselves in truth, when we truly find out who we are. I love the Elven phrase, Ilya Nakwain, It simply means all is one. Please note that it does not say all are one. That's plural. And there is no plural. There is simply only God. Nothing else exists. All is one. There is only one Eru, one God, the one mind. I'm going to read a passage from an ancient Zen master. He has always been my favorite, by the name of Huang Po. I very much have cherished him and his teachings, and he passed away around 850 A.D. Was an amazing aspect of God. His one main teaching could be summed up simply by speaking of nothing but the one mind. That's pretty much all he ever talked about. There is only one mind, no you, no me, no your mind, no my mind, but one single mind. There is only God. I love what he said when he was trying to teach us how to perceive God. He stated, "The pure mind, the source of everything, shines forever, and on all with the brilliance of its own perfection. But the people of the world do not awake to it, regarding only that which sees, hears, feels, and knows as mind. Blinded by their own sight and hearing and feeling and knowing, they do not perceive the spiritual brilliance or the source substance." I know. Yeah, it can be pretty heady stuff, but I hope that you might take the time to look into that and try to understand it for yourself. One of the main things, again, I was talking about earlier with so many of the world religions today is that the individual standing up there at the front of the church or the chapel or cathedral or whatever building that they may choose for their house of worship, they tell you what the meaning of the book is. They tell you what the meaning of the scripture is. And I can promise you, Eru never asked you to take the word of someone else, even mine. Everything I'm saying here today, look into it for yourself. Find what feels right for you. Eru wants you to use your own mind. The knowledge is presented to you, whether it's by me or your pastor or your rabbi or your any kind of priest or whoever is trying to teach you. There's nothing but an opportunity being presented to you. It is up to you to then look within your own being and find out what rings true for you. If what I'm saying to you today doesn't ring true, that's great. You're in a different place, and there's nothing wrong with that. Because time does not exist, you have all the time in the world to work it out. If we don't do it this time, we'll do it next time. So it goes on, if they would but eliminate the conceptual thinking, trying to logically figure everything out, trying to turn everything into black and white, thinking in a logical way, it would reveal itself, the truth. That is one of the things that Zen does for us. It teaches us to focus on the now, living in the now, with no other thoughts. It's amazing how much of the now will suddenly appear to us, and we will suddenly realize, I'm not me, I'm not you, I'm God. That is all there is God. And I'm simply just one aspect of it. There is another beautiful comparison I found in this sweet little book called Zen Flesh, Zen Bones. You can still find it on Amazon. Okay, it's a bit of an older book, but amazing. In it, the author talks about a comparison of what is the one mind or the one light. And this is beautiful. I hope you will stay with me here and just, if nothing else, this explains so much about what I've already said. It's a beautiful comparison. It says, imagine this, that there is a box with a lot of holes in the top, and there's a light shining into the box through the holes from outside. So this light is shining through the holes into the interior of the box. And from your perception, it's from within the box. You're inside the box. And the light is shining in, But what you see are many rays entering the box, many lights, so to speak. All these multiple shafts of light, all these unique shafts of light, all right? And let's say we gave each one of these lights their own awareness, their own names, since that's how we perceive them as individuals. Each light would be perceived as a unique individual, a unique entity. And let's say there's about 100 other shafts of light, and they all seem to be unique from each other. And that we call the ego. Then maybe one day one of those lights were to decide to go up and take a look beyond the top of the box. All right, the old cliche, look outside the box. So the light actually goes until it exits the box and then discovers it's not a single light unto itself amongst many. It's simply one light that appears as many. It's just one light. It's all our perspective. Another phrase, again from the Silver Elves, and I love this too. One sky, many stars. One sky, many stars. I dearly love that phrase. All right, so in this box, again, the same thing. We had many lights, but it was really just one light. From one perspective, it appeared to be many, but it was really just one. Thou art God. I am God. We are all aspects of God, of the one mind. I hope this helps, to at least define how I perceive God, and maybe get you to thinking, asking questions, get those inquiring minds, looking again for that lost, because the inquiring mind is a lost art, the ability to think for ourselves. I do believe indeed in Eru, and I believe I am simply an aspect of God. Ego really doesn't mean anything, especially once you let it all go. I'd like to go ahead and play a short audio clip donated to us by Dare to Do Motivation, a wonderful Zen Buddhist channel on YouTube. Absolutely beautiful, short little stories and parables. And this one is about the fox and the grape. I'm going to go ahead and play this now because it's very indicative of what I've been talking about here. And so I'm going to go ahead and play this, and then I'll come right back and explain why I believe this had something to do with what we're talking about how we can try for something and fail, and how it appears to fail, and how it alters our perspective of something. All right, so I hope you enjoyed. It's a beautiful little story. Here we go.
Once upon a time, it was a hot day, and a fox was almost famishing with hunger and thirst. He was just saying to himself that anything would be acceptable to him, when, looking up, he spied some great clusters of ripe, black grapes, hanging from a trellised vine. "What luck," he said. "If only they weren't quite so high. I should be sure of a fine feast. I wonder if I can get them. I can think of nothing that would so refresh me." Jumping into the air is not the easiest thing in the world for a fox to do, but he gave a great spring and nearly reached the lowest clusters. "I'll do better next time," he said. He tried again and again, but did not succeed so well as at first. Finding that he was losing his strength and that he had little chance of getting the grapes, he walked slowly off, grumbling as he did so. "The grapes are sour and not at all fit for my eating. I'll leave them to the greedy birds. They eat anything." You see, in life, in your life, have you ever tried to get something, but in the end you failed to get it, and then belittled the thing or the person that you wanted? That is the story of the fox and the grapes, where we are taught that when something is out of our reach, we tend to think negative about it and belittle it. So always try and stay objective. no matter if you are a fox or a bird. This is Dare to Do Motivation, Stories. Thanks for watching, and stay blessed.
For me, why this is so important, and why it has how it's relative to what we've been talking about today, is what I mentioned earlier in this episode. That for many people, they don't believe in God because, well, how can God be that? I mean, if that's what God is, and allowing for all this death and destruction and horrible events that occur in this world being done in His or her name, then I certainly can't believe in that. And for many of them, they'll try to go out and find God, and they become frustrated because, I can't believe in God, therefore, that must all be very bad. Instead of going, again, like the little story just told, to step back and be more objective and go, all right, what I was listening to were other people's perceptions of God. And it's okay if I haven't figured that out yet. That's just part of the journey of life, is exploring and seeking and inquiring. And it's okay if I don't understand. It's all right that I don't know. It's okay if I don't know. And it's okay if I get it wrong sometimes. But what is good is that you keep trying. You keep asking questions. You keep looking. And most importantly, that you keep looking from within. We're going to go ahead and take a short station break right now, and when we get back, I've got a lot of announcements to make, a lot of good things happening for the new year. So we'll be right back with Elven Awakenings, chatting with the Elven Scholar on Heroes and Mortals Radio. We'll be right back. Deep in the forest is a place filled with artifacts of an age gone by, a time when elven and fairies and all those of other kin knew who they were and remembered our mythic past. It is our pleasure here at Elven Artifacts to present some of those memories. With the rising cost of so many things today, it is becoming harder to find those precious gifts that pass along an air of myth and magic to our homes and to our individual lifestyles. Within this store, you may find that one particular treasure that reminds you of your gentler past, something to help grace your home with our memories. It is our goal to keep everything priced in such a way that makes it available to as many of our gentler folk as we can. Through the magic of 3D printing, we are able to offer them at a greatly reduced price. We are including Elven, Fairy, D&D, and other kin products such as statues, wall plaques, bathrooms, kitchenwares, musical instruments, smartphone accessories, clothes, and so much more. In keeping with our Elven traditions, all items are made from eco-friendly biodegradable materials. The plastic is made from sugarcane and bamboo. You're also welcome to customize your own artifacts. One of the most important features of this store is the ability that allows you to customize an item. You can have your name written in your language or in Elven, and even customize the images placed on the items. Please let us know what you're interested in designing, and we will try and help you, again, at an affordable cost. So please feel free to look us up at elvenscholar.org/store, and we'll do our best to help you find those memories that remind us of our true inner nature. Namaste. We're back, and I've got a lot of wonderful announcements to make, and I'm going to pass on some more information to you on a new possible show starting up here. Could be within the next couple of weeks. All right, I wanted to go ahead and first announce that the show for next week, we have decided to take a fun break from being so deep and spiritual and have a more of a fun time with the next show. So the next show is The Spiritual Path of Tom Bombadil. For all those who do not know who Tom Bombadil is, he is a character from the Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien's books. He was a very, very special character that actually, for a number of reasons, did not make it into the Lord of the Rings films with Peter Jackson. And a lot of people were disappointed, but I can see both sides. But he was an amazing, very special character who saved the hobbits in the very early stages of their journey. And it appears that the evil of the world had no control over him. He was free from what the world could do. And there's been a lot of talk about just who Tom Bombadil could have been. Because he said he had been around before the world was created, and he'd always been there. Sounds interesting. So next week, the spiritual path of Tom Bombadil. Plan on having a lot of fun with that. We'll be playing a lot of excerpts of other people's audio clips and theories, as well as I'll be expressing some of my own. All right, upcoming shows for January and February and this winter and spring. Later this month, we will still be having our interview with an actual elven botanist. He is a degreed botanist and a practicing scientist. He actually works in the field today, but also follows the elven culture. So later this month, we will be having his interview for all of you to listen in on. I'm very excited about it. And I just wanted to reiterate another interview with an author coming up later this month. It will not be on this radio show, but it will be played on Heroes and Mortals Radio. It is another interview I'm very excited about, and it's with B.G. Franklin, a fantasy author of the Azalam series. And there are already 2 books out on it, Azalam, Rise of the Mountain God, and Book 2, Azalam, and forgive me, Mr. Franklin, if I'm not quite pronouncing that right, but Azalam, The Shattered Accord. You can find them both on Amazon. Very looking forward to doing his interview, and like I said, it won't be on this show, but it will be played in Heroes and Mortals, so stay tuned for more announcements on when you can listen to that. Great couple of books. I'm already reading the first one now and enjoying it thoroughly. All right, upcoming shows. You Are a Note in the Cosmic Music, the Song of Life. We're going to actually give you scientific evidence how you are but a note in the cosmic music of life, along with hearing some of those notes. Wonderful discoveries in genetics and DNA, and how musical we actually are, and we don't even know it. Show coming up later this month, and this will be a very special episode for us. I hope that you are able to tune in and look forward to it. This is near and dear to me because I believe in all of us having a sense of freedom. And this is how to run a successful elven, fae, or other kin business for your financial freedom. I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm going to be giving you my past experience over a very long period of time of the number of businesses that I have run and how you can do the same thing. Again, it's often noted within the New Age or Elven or Fae or other kin or pagan communities that a lot of those folks don't make a lot of money because we don't want to compromise our ideals and work for someone that we don't believe in or for something we don't believe in. And so many don't make a lot of money, and that doesn't have to be. Through manifestation, you can create a situation where you can make enough money to support yourself and maybe help your dreams come true. And be able to turn around and then help others do so as well. So how to run a successful elven business for financial freedom, that's later on this month. Also be talking about the love of elves for the stars and trees and the earth, talking about elven philosophy and karma. How elves and karma, what is the relationship there? Very exciting little show. Another one, a lot from my experience, living as an elf in today's world. That'll be a great little show. And another one that's going to be a 3-parter, probably more in February, is Finding Balance in a Non-Elven World. Again, it will be broken into 3 parts. There'll be part 1, Finding Balance Physically, how to help your body heal by finding balance. And part 2 will be spiritual, how to find balance within your own spiritual life. And then finally, part 3 is how to help the rest of the world find balance. All right. We'll be talking about elven evolution, how we came to be and where we come from, escaping from the world of illusion and living your true elven life, and a very controversial topic, elven diet. What I personally believe is a more compassionate, loving diet. And again, let's talk about it. Let's debate from a mature way. Nobody has to get upset about it. I wanted to go ahead and announce also one more time because it actually started today. And so I'd like you all to be aware of it. This is about the new book club that has started up. I just absolutely love this. I'm actually going to read you the email that I received this weekend on this. This is a book club, so I'll just go ahead and read it to you. It's wonderful. And anybody can be a part of this. It says, "Thank you for your interest in the online discussions of The Silmarillion by J.R. Tolkien. Our first meeting will take place January 8th from 1 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I plan to hold meetings every 2 weeks. I'm open to adjusting the schedule as needed, and then it will be with Zoom. If you're curious, you can contact the host at mckenzieshawn@gmail.com. That's McKenzieshawn, the number 7 @gmail.com. Again, I will be reposting this show on YouTube, and I'll make sure that those links are there so you can just click on them and get to them. All right, so it will be a Zoom meeting. It's a lot of fun. He goes on to say that he will be updating as well on the website, and the group website is http / /tolkiengrace.weebly.com. Tolkien Grace, TolkienGrace.weebly.com. All right, and he will be using the 1999 HarperCollins paperback edition. So we will be going through that. Basically, he said we will not be covering the entire book at once. We'll go chapter by chapter. I expect it will take a couple of weeks to cover the first part of the book, the Ainu Lindale. So for those that are interested, you can start reading pages 4 through 12. We encourage you to be a part of this. This is the next step in the book club. They took 2 years to get through the Lord of the Rings. I was a small part of that. Absolutely loved it. You're not sitting there reading the book on Zoom. What you do is you read it before the meeting, and then it's a lively discussion and debate about people's interpretations and asking questions and learning from each other. Absolutely beautiful. I had a great time, and I have been looking forward to this one starting up today, and then every 2 weeks, unless people decide that they would like to have it changed to a different schedule. And Sean has a wonderful host, and he's done a great job with it, and he's very open-minded and willing to work with you. All right, and one more is that it started December 19th. It's every Sunday at 3 o'clock, and that's our new show, Mythic Tales of Hope, by myself, the Elven Scholar. And it's meant to be filled with tales of elven fae and other kin lore, stories from a distant past, along with poetry read by myself, as well as those who would love to donate. So if you want to donate your poetry to being read on the radio, please feel free to send it to me at radio@elvenscholar.org. I would love to read it. So that is Mythic Tales of Hope by the Elven Scholar on Heroes and Mortals Radio at 3 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time every Sunday. So it'll be on here in just a little bit, so I hope you enjoy it. Great little tales. Maybe we can all learn again from each other. Okay, and we're putting it together. We haven't gotten it complete yet, but we are looking at doing another show come up here very soon, and that is basically a weekly news show on Elven Fae, Otherkin, D&D, cosplay topics, a weekly news show of actual news events going on that affects our gentle community. And so we'll see how that goes. If you're interested in this, please let me know. You can contact the radio station, heroesandmortals.com. You can contact me at radio@elvenscholar.org. How do you guys feel about a weekly radio show to where you hear the latest news about our type of community? All right, very exciting stuff, as well as calendar events will be a part of that as well. Okay, before we take another quick break here, one more time at least for today, I'm going to go ahead and did you know? These are did you know little topics from the Lord of the Rings movies. Really fascinating things that we didn't know that was going on behind the scenes. For example, the main door. If you guys remember, for those who watched Peter Jackson's movies, the main door to Helm's Deep, remember what they crashed through? The main door to Helm's Deep was built too well and had to be modified. The door to Helm's Deep was built so heavily and so well that the real battering ram that was built to knock down the gates failed to do the job until the door itself was weakened, so they, in between scenes, they had to go in and weaken the door. They had to make it more frail. They had done too good a job. Someone had built the door a little bit too well, and Peter Jackson can be heard on the extended DVD commentary saying that if they had to defend the castle, he would want the Ouija workshop guys to build the door. That's how good a job an actual battering ram could not break down the door. So that was pretty neat. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, during the Council of Elrond, leaves are continually falling in the background to suggest that this is a meeting that's taking place outside. Okay, this meant about a half a dozen of the crew members were positioned above the set, dropping leaves at various intervals. Okay, we've seen that with a lot of shows. This also meant that the art department had to collect sacks and sacks of leaves during autumn, and since dead leaves turn brown fairly quickly, every single one of those leaves had to be individually painted. So we're talking hundreds or thousands of leaves had to be collected in the autumn, then had to be painted so that they could then use them for the scene when it came time. One last did you know. All right. You may never see Andy Serkis. He's the one who played Gollum, obviously, as well as did some other voice. You may never actually see him in the film, but you did see his spit. In the Two Towers, where Gollum spits in disgust at Sam's cooking of the rabbits. That actually is Andy Serkis's actual spittle, flying through the air. Serkis lists this scene as his favorite from all the 3 films that he did. He absolutely loved that scene. That was actually Gollum spit. That was actually Andy's saliva flying through the air. So next time you watch the show, maybe you'll get a little laugh out of that. Okay, we're going to take a quick break here, and then when we come back, we'll be back with final thoughts. This is Heroes and Immortals Radio, Elven Awakenings, chatting with the Elven Scholar. Be right back.
When you go to college, you expect the high halls and libraries filled with old books. But much has changed, and in today's world, online schools have exploded in popularity. Please join us at Lambengomor, the world's first online college with a nod towards Elven and humankind alike. With Lambengomor, you can start a new career or a new life in the holistic health field. Learn a new Elven language, study history and culture or the environment. We believe everyone deserves an affordable education with personalized attention. We provide full certifications in the following fields: home herbalist, Reiki levels 1 through Reiki Master, nutritionist, first aid, Elven history and culture, Elven languages, Quenya and Sindarin, anatomy, botany, introduction to archaeology, ecology, astronomy, and Elven laws of manifestation and meditation. We also offer full diplomas in the fields of medical herbalist and medical nutritionist. More classes are being added. Many students have already found new careers in these fields. You can pay for your classes outright or join a low-cost monthly subscription which allows you to take as many classes as you like at one time while you maintain the subscription. This college was founded to give you a chance to expand your horizons while believing in who you are. All classes are certified and are aimed at helping you start a new life and a new career. Adult study programs for both elves and humans alike, designed specifically for you. You can find us at www.elvenscholar.org. Discover what is inside of you. Be who you are at Lambengomor, the Elven School of Lore Masters.
It's time for final thoughts of the day, and I wanted to go ahead and cover something a little bit different from what I normally do. Maybe a little bit more radical, a little bit more rebellious, a little bit maybe more thought-provoking, and allow for some debate. As I've always said, I don't mind each other's different opinions. I think that that's very important to the world, that we can all discuss something even if we disagree. But can we do it as calm adults? Can we go ahead and share each other's feelings without some kind of extreme emotional reaction to it. So today I'm going to talk about something a little bit more thought-provoking, I think. All right. And this was partly spurred on by the fact that I had a patient tell me this week that just having simply the media threat of an issue that we're all aware of going on around the world right now, been going on for about 2 years, the simple media threat of how dangerous this appears to be was enough to cause her nightmares of dying along with her family, that if she believed that their entire family was going to die from this simply because of a fear report from the media. This would not have happened if we'd simply been in touch with our true nature. So I'm going to talk about that for a few minutes, and a lot of you might disagree with me on this, and that's okay. That's a healthy thing for all of us to be able to disagree with each other, but to be able to do it as calm individuals, because maybe we'll learn from each other. A lot of what I'm going to talk about now is I am a doctor, and I've been running a medical practice for over 20 years. My wife and I ran the largest naturopathic medical center in California, and we ran it during a large part of the current issue going on, and we dealt with this firsthand, so we know something about what's happening. But this talk right now is about, it doesn't matter what issue is going on. Can you face it with the calm heart, knowing that everything is going to be okay? I've noticed that over the years that the more humans become disconnected from the earth, from their mother, the more they lose their humanity. Okay, what is happening today is a prime example of what can happen when humans become too dependent on tech. As you become more disconnected from nature, as you become more into tech, and I'm not saying that tech is a bad thing. What I'm saying is that you can become so dependent on it that you begin to forget who you are. So as you become more disconnected from nature, from life itself, you lose your ability to see through illusion, to pierce the veil of deceit that others are spreading throughout the world. That when you can no longer see yourself clearly, you're not going to see through the illusion that others are perpetuating upon you. You then lose your ability to make your own decisions, those based on your inner truths and not someone else's. This has caused a time now in human history, one of unprecedented extent, where the world is in the grip of mass hysteria, mass fear. This is causing people to turn on their families, friends, to become incredibly isolated, which is an unnatural state for beings who are designed within to be social, loving beings. Benjamin Franklin once stated, "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." Even if this current crisis was one based on actual medical science, which it is not. As a people, you cannot give up your innate rights given to you as a child of this world and expect to be free of the illusions of man's world. As you move further from your natural being, you lose contact with your true nature. Now I know a lot of you are probably saying, this is based on medical science. This is an actual crisis in the world. And you are correct to the extent that this is an actual crisis. But it is a crisis that was manufactured out of fear, or certainly responded to out of fear. Because like I said, even if you say that what is happening is true in the world right now, and has been going on for the past 2 years, this is by far not the first time this has ever happened in human history. And it is by far probably not the last time it will ever happen. Back in the early 1970s during Woodstock, there was an incredible flu spreading throughout the world that was killing millions and millions of people. And yet, in Woodstock, there were 100,000 people all huddled together in one big group hug. And there were no lockdowns. There was no mass hysteria. People dealt with it one day at a time, and what happened? The issue burned itself out in a very short period of time. People are making decisions because they're being told that in order to make themselves stronger, such as their immune system, that they have to do certain things. When the greatest impediment to one's own health, one's own immune system, is fear itself. Now, I'm not going to get into the debate, is this situation that's going on true or not? Because it really doesn't matter. What matters is how you face it, how you deal with it, and what you are willing to accept in your life based on the repercussions of those decisions. You are a free child of life, of this earth. And the more you are disconnected with who you are, the more likely you will be that you will not be able to see through the illusions that others cast. And the more likely that you will make decisions based on fear. I heard something very revealing of the current state of fear in this country and other Western nations. A newscaster, she was on YouTube, and not just some influencer, she was a major newscaster. And she was stating about how about 2 years ago she believed the American people, for example, would never tolerate the erosion of their freedoms. They would never tolerate lockdowns and economic collapse, spying on their neighbors, family, and friends, that they would never accept the destruction of their way of life. But she admits she was wrong. Fear, it is the great motivator which allows a nation to degrade itself into a pre-World War II Germany where private citizens can ask for your papers. By distancing yourself from your true nature, from your true home, nature herself, you begin to lose that connection with reality, with the stabilizing influence of being grounded in something substantial, not man-made, not synthetic. With the balance of nature being grounded in her embrace that we were originally designed for, it gifts to us the calmness and clear-headedness to see through the lies and deceit that others will perpetuate upon us, to force us into their worldview. Again, this discussion is not to whether this whole emergency that is spreading across the world is true or not. It's how you approach it, how you deal with it, what you are willing to sacrifice for someone else's illusion. Find your connection again with nature. Remember who you are. It really does amazingly help to just get quiet every day, to meditate, to turn off the TV, turn off the news, and reconnect with yourself, reconnect with your family. You'd be amazed the illusions that would suddenly become so clear to you. You know, it's the old cliche. I've said it before on this show as well as on my YouTube channel. If we say that the moon is truth, most people don't look at the moon. They have their back turned to it and they look at the shadow that it casts and said, oh, that's the truth. When all you had to do is turn around and look up and see that, oh, there's the truth. Not what somebody else is telling me is the truth, that shadow, but the light itself. It's up to you. It's up to you what you do. It's up to you how you respond to what others are telling you. Again, whether it's true or not, your fear will make you susceptible to every illness out there, both mental and physical. If this were working, why has the suicide rate increased so much? Because we are loving social beings and we were never meant to be isolated from each other. We were never meant to be ruled by fear. Take the time, quiet your environment, and take a look at yourself. Meditate. And then see what you think. All right. Thank you for giving me the time to talk to you all. I know that this was probably more than some people would like, but if I felt it was important because I see this from so many of my patients. The fear itself is making them sicker than they would have been otherwise. Okay, new year, new chance for new beginnings. I hope this hour was good for you. Again, I teach so that I can learn as well. Thank you all for listening, my friends, and until we are together again next week, may you all be blessed by the elves. My name is Dr. Erendil Spendalelis, and I am the Elven Scholar. Namarie.
Megavanen, and welcome to our YouTube channel, The Gentle Musings of an Elven Scholar. My name is Dr. Erendil Spendalelis, and I am the Elven Scholar. Join me on this journey exploring all things Elven. Learn about Elven culture, healing, diet, meditation, and Elven spirituality. Come and take this adventure with me, and together we can find that inner light and balance that exists within each one of us. Namarie.